In this video, we're going to supercharge this piece by adding clouds, juicy lighting details, and finally, we're going to do some color adjustments to make the image pop. This is part 3 in a 3-part series. If you stumbled on this, you can go back and watch parts 1 and 2 on my YouTube channel. I'll be starting from this point. You can get the Procreate file on Patreon listed as Snapshot Fore. Okay, let's jump in. First, we're going to start with the clouds. So I'm going to create a new layer just underneath my Mt Fuji silhouette. And then we're going to get our brush and go to the painting flat brush, make it relatively large, and we're going to choose the dark grayish purple. Draw a line kind of like this. Let's bring the size down a bit to about 10%. Soften it a bit with our eraser with the soft brush. And the key thing is, I'm actually keeping a hard edge at the bottom and I'm making the top end of the cloud a soft edge. Now we just want to push it around a bit, so we're going to get our smudge tool on the soft brush as well, and maybe at a size 7. I just want to fine tune some of this. I don't want to get rid of all the hard edges because they add a bit of interest. Just be careful when you use a smudge brush because things can turn into a muddy mess pretty fast. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to create a new layer on top, create it as a clipping mask, and we're going to kiss this with our red glow. We need to change to our airbrush, soft brush. Just imagine the light hitting it from beneath. Maybe not too much on that side. I'm going to grab some of my orange glow, bring some of that in, not too much. And I think I can bring in some cyan blue on the shadow side, just because I feel like some of these grays are getting a bit too muddy. And yeah, you just want to keep it subtle. We don't want the clouds to be too crazy because obviously our highlight, or kind of the focal point of this image, is Mt Fuji plus the detail of these buildings. We don't want to go too crazy with the sky. Yeah, but I think that looks pretty good. Next, let's move on to this cityscape. And this is the really fun part. I'm actually really excited right now. Like, I've been waiting to do this for so long. Okay. So we're going to tackle this how we tackled the city. So we're going to treat the details of the city in terms of foreground, midground, background, and let's start with our midground. So let's go to our midground layer, midground city, create a new layer on top, and we'll name this our lights on. Now you might be thinking, where should I place my light? Now again, you can follow me exactly, or you can choose what you want, but just so you know, the thing to think about when you're placing these lights is to think about composition again. So think about that rule of thirds and think about where you want to place lights and focus the user's eye. Now obviously, if you put too many lights everywhere, it's just going to become really unrealistic and just a really bright, glaring kind of mess. So we want to make it look a bit organic, have some areas that are dark and some areas that are bright. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to our yellow brown color and just make sure, yeah, that's the right color we've got selected. Okay, so we're going to start with our Mega Mall right here. So make sure you have the selection tool selected, rectangle and color fill on. And so we're just going to zoom in and put in a long rectangle section like so. And then we're going to duplicate this, bring it down, and then merge these two together, duplicate, and bring it down again. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave the bottom one off just for some variation. And the other thing to keep in mind is don't stress too much about the color of this light just yet. We just want to get the composition right and kind of the pattern of where we're going to have lights on. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. Next, I'm going to move over to this building right here, and I'm going to, on the same layer, you still got the layer on? Yep. I'm going to turn on some of these lights. So maybe I'll turn on this one. And maybe I'll turn on these. Then I'm going to go over to this one as well, turn on here, and then also turn on, just to add some difference, I'm going to add a bit extra here. Okay, and then on this side one, I'm actually going to add some vertical signage. So if you imagine like some store billboards. Nope, I want to increase. Nope, I want to add a bit of a gap between those two. So just a gap between these two. Yeah, so from afar it reads a bit better. I might turn this one on. Okay, I don't want to overdo it on this layer. Let's move to the back layer. So let's go to the background city, create a new layer. I'm actually going to rename these back lights, and I'll rename the other one mid lights, just so we know which level is which. Okay, so backlights, for me, what really stands out is this tiny arrangement here. I want to turn on some of these lights. So let's do that. These look interesting. I'm going to turn on some of these. I'll turn this one on. So turn this on. Maybe this. No, not that last one. No, turn it off. This is interesting also. So I'm going to turn on some of these. And here, some of our tower apartment blocks. Going to just turn on a section of this tower. Something like that. And we're going to do the same for this one. Let's start turning on some of these. And on these buildings, there's nothing here, but I want to add some. We need to get a sense of scale. So yeah, I think also on this building, we can have a few. Make them pretty small. Don't want to overdo it. I think on this apartment tower, we need to put some undo that one. And in the background, some of these apartment towers might have advertising on them. So go down into here and I'm going to put a vertical billboard. Okay, maybe on this office tower, I'm going to have maybe a square billboard. And then on this side, have a thinner one. No, that square billboard is way too strong. So yeah, don't forget to zoom out, like have a look and get a sense of it. But I do want a square billboard somewhere. I think maybe on this building, I can put one. No, that looks weird. I'm just not going to put a square billboard. It's just too off-putting. Like I've got a lot of the horizontal strokes, so I don't want to have just this one that's too thick. And speaking of which, this vertical board is too thick actually. I'm going to make it a bit thinner, just to squeeze it. So freeform, squeeze it down a bit. So the way I'm telling whether I should squeeze it more or not is based on the size of this one. Like if this one's this wide, this one should be a bit thinner. Okay, that still needs to be thinner. So let's bring this down more. Selection, freehand, freeform. I'm actually going to squeeze it a bit more that way as well. Okay. Now let's, actually there's some windows here that are kind of getting lost. Let's punch these out. Okay, so I'm starting to notice, actually in this midground layer, I forgot to turn on some of the lights here. So let's just jump back to that, to mid lights. Let's turn on. This one's tough because it's really, like it's a really prominent structure. So you don't want to overdo it. What I will do is actually, I'm going to put some lights here in the elevator shaft. Maybe make them like really square. Technically there should be ones all the way down, but let's just do that one. Looks nice. And then I'm going to turn on so these might look really strong right now, but once I color them and vary their intensities, they'll make a lot more sense. And then the other thing you might be noticing now is like kind of the more intensity or cluster of lights here, again here. And that's on purpose. Like I don't want the viewer to be focused too much here. I need to balance them out. Okay, let me just add a few to this side. Gonna add some more to this building here. Maybe I'll do this. I think I do want to continue this, or at least have some kind of a pattern. Let's create a new layer above. I am going to copy this, paste it, and here we go. We've got another. Space it fairly wide. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller. The one at the top can be big, but this one we want to be pretty small. So from afar, it looks like that. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, just as long as from afar, it roughly looks okay. Yeah, let's hit our foreground layers. So let's go to foreground city. On top of our houses, we're going to call this Fore lights, and we're going to do the same thing. So we've got our selection tool, rectangle, color fill on our yellow color. And when I look at the foreground, the thing that sticks out to me the most actually is this building here. So I'm going to start with that. But the thing is, this building is so strong as is, so I don't want to, you know, make this entire thing yellow. I want you to imagine this is actually kind of being like a cutout in the wall of the building, and you know that might be a veranda, and then maybe inside there'll be a small window. So let's just put something like this, and then another one like this, and then over here I'm going to do a wide one. So maybe on the lower floors I'll do that again. Freehand select, turn off color fill. Grab that, copy and paste, and then bring it down. So we've got the same deal happening here. That's okay for now. Let's jump over to this building. This building's pretty simple, so I think we should be able to knock it out pretty quickly. Let's just merge that down together. I do want to turn this one on. Something I've noticed here is that this light is going over the top of this house. So let's rearrange these layers, bring these foreground lights below the houses, and we'll do another light layer for the houses after this. Okay. Let me create another one here. And I just had a thought, looking back at this building, I realized maybe I should make these ground floor lights a bit different. So what I'm going to do is erase what I just put there. And just imagine these are like shops, ground floor shops. So maybe there's a 7-Eleven there, maybe there's a pharmacy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like kind of like a top level signage right there. Going to do the same thing here. And then I'm going to create like a little bit of signage here. If you imagine like a 7-Eleven sign or something sticking off the side of the building, put another vertical signage here. Next, let's go over to this apartment block here. The first thing I know I want to illuminate is these lights here on the fire escape. That one's actually moved out of position. I got to fix that. Let's just put this one here. And also this one I know for sure is going to be bright. I'm going to illuminate this one right down here. And then just to balance it, I'm going to illuminate this one also. And also this one. All right, let's move over to this side. I'll probably illuminate this bottom one here that's drawing my eye. And then probably this one. Just to balance it out. So I got left, right, top and bottom. And over on this side, we want to, I'm going to do this, make a wide one. And then I'm going to use our painting flat brush at 1% and then just chop it in half like that. Freehand select, copy and paste. And then we got another one, just bring it across. Okay, so zooming out, there's one thing that kind of is off to me, and that's this, these dudes here. So let me just merge that down and erase these. Don't really like that. And I'm going to do what I did just now. So that, and then I'm going to chop it in half. 2%. Chop it like that. And then maybe I'll do the same for the top one. And I think I want this illuminated as well. So let's go here. Let's do the bottom one. I'm actually going to add another vertical billboard here. And then maybe a small one here. And okay, yeah, that looks good for the foreground. Now we're going to do the lights for the houses, or I guess you could call it the foreground. So Fore light, extra Fore light, I don't know, what should I call it? Okay, so let's dot some little windows here. They should be pretty small. Okay, so Fore lights looks pretty good now, but there is one more thing I want to add that I had an idea for, and I don't know if it's going to work, but let's try. So let's create a new layer, zoom right into here, and then use our rectangle with color fill, choose black, draw a really tall stick, something like that. And then I'm going to get my yellow brown and draw a piece coming off it like this. So that's going to become our street light. Bring it down a little bit, duplicate it, and put them about this so far apart, merge, duplicate. How does that look from afar? I think it can work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this slightly smaller. Bring this down, something like that. Then I'm going to duplicate it. Again, bring it across. Bring it down a little bit more. And I'm going to move this behind the houses so it's not so overbearing. Something like that. I'm going to do the same thing, duplicate this, I'm going to pull it over here. I'm going to erase these ones, I don't want them at the front. And this one as well. So kind of, if you imagine it running behind this building. Duplicate again. A couple more here. Erase that. I'm actually going to make this one smaller, so it's further in the background, maybe like that, and it's going to run behind this building. You know what? No, I don't want to overdo it, so that's going to do. Okay, so those are the positions of all our lights. Now we want to go and adjust the temperature, the brightness, the color of the lights, and just create more depth between the foreground, midground, and background. Now I want to turn on the alpha lock of these lights, and then I want to go in and actually add some color variation or hue variation to them. So let's change to our disk. And so right now you can see we've selected like it's kind of like a tan or brownish color. And I want to stay at that kind of level of saturation, but I just want to change the hue. So I'm going to do this and bring us around to blue. Let's make it a bit more, a bit more towards the green. And also reduce some of this, bring it more towards gray. Like that. So we can go through and soften some of these. Anything that you think stands out a bit too much. Okay, and then we're going to do the opposite and kind of give ourselves a really strong blue, something like that, and maybe really punch that out. These are only reserved for billboards though. I wouldn't do that for the actual windows themselves. I just want to increase the brightness a bit more. I think it's, yeah. Reduce the saturation, increase the brightness a bit more. Now let's go to our midground lights. But I want to turn down some lights. So for example, this light here is actually being cast in the red of the sunlight, so it shouldn't be so bright. Actually, the brighter lights would appear in the darker side of the apartment building because of that contrast with the dark. So I need to tone this one down a bit, and I'm going to do it with a bit of red actually. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to reduce the opacity to about 40%. Oops, I need to turn on my alpha lock. That's really important. And just do this. And run it over like that. I'm going to run it over this a bit as well, just because the closer it is to the lit side, the more red it's going to interfere with it. Yep, and see how that already adds kind of a gradation effect. Seems less harsh, right? I'm also going to turn down this light in here. So I just selected this black color. Again, I'm going to use like a low opacity, about 30%, and just bring this down because it's a bit too strong. So you could explain it away by saying that, you know, there's a dim light in there. Maybe they haven't fully turned it up. Maybe, I don't know. Everyone's apartment is different, right? So let's do that. That looks pretty cool. And I kind of want to carry that over to some of the other parts. So for example, here, just to have varying intensities. Okay, going to jump into some of the other buildings, do the same. So let's reduce the heat off this one. This one, maybe I'll reduce this one even more. Actually, I'm just going to select this color that I've created and then just do it 100% so I know. I can just get it done easy. Okay, and I might take some of this blue color, actually run that over that. It gives us some variation. Maybe I'll increase the intensity of it a little bit just because we are in the midground layer, so you do want to keep that distinction. Okay, similarly I'm going to do the same for this part. What else do we have? I might do this one as a blue. Now this one is going to be interesting. So this is the Mega Mall. I'm just lightly going over this. I don't want it to be the full-on blue. Just give it a bit of a tint of blue. You can choose the amount of tint you want to give it, but okay, for this billboard, I do want to make it really punch out stronger. So we're going to go for like a turquoise blue. Maybe even more green. That one really punches through. And similarly for these billboards, I'm going to make one of them another blue. No, maybe I'll do this one blue, and then I'm going to make the one above it kind of a really white. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And actually this background layer, backlights, this one can be different. I'm going to change this to something like purple. That's a bit too intense. Let's dial it back a bit. Yep, that's nice. One thing I noticed is in this background tower, if we zoom in here, you can see this sunlight is cast over this window, so it should actually follow through and show through on that. So let's go to our background lights. Backlights, alpha lock is on, and we are going to just paint some red on top of that. Set it to about, I don't know, 40% opacity, bring the size down a bit. Yeah, just work it so it looks appropriate. It's a really subtle thing, but it really makes a difference. Let's keep working it in. All right, let's move on to the foreground lights. So we go up here, Fore lights, alpha lock is on. And I actually want to bring down some of these lights. So for example, maybe I'll bring this one down. Bring this one down. I'm going to select a different color temperature. Maybe do that. I'm definitely going to change that one. I'm actually going to bring this one right down. Yeah, like that. Give me another color temperature. Grab this one. No, undo that one. I'm actually going to change the color temperature of these ones because these are probably going to be like fluorescent, kind of like, yeah, signage type thing. So let's do that. I'll also grab this color here and I'll probably use it for this one. This one I want to soften it a bit because it's really big and dominating. And then the strongest one is going to be this one down here, which will almost be pure white. Going to do the same for these, turn them down a bit. They're a bit too strong. And I'm going to grab this color over here. Just turn that one. These big blocks, they're really dominating, so I need to bring them down a bit. Because, you know, the foreground is important, but actually the midground is what's supposed to be drawing our eye. So actually I need to bring all of these down now that I think about it. Bring down the opacity. Just let me lighten you a bit. 100%. Okay. Something like that. Okay, that's a lot more subtle, which I like. And let's hit those foreground houses now. So the Fore light. Okay, so I'm going to do them all roughly like that. Oops, let's put the alpha lock on. I'll leave one or two to punctuate the style, but the majority of them are going to be dimmed down. Okay guys, so this is where I'm at with my lights in my city. I think I'm pretty happy with it. You could spend hours and days detailing all these lights, but you just need to know when to call it finished and not overdo it. You know, like you put too much detail, it just gets a bit too crazy. Having said that, we're going to add a bit more detail right now, but not to the city itself. We're going to add some small settlements on these mountains just to give us a bit more perspective and to complete the image. So let's go down to our Mt Fuji layer. Just above all of these layers, like all these layers of mountains, we're going to create a new layer above that. Let's call it settlements. And we're going to use our rectangular selection tool with color fill on. Let's just zoom in here and just grab one of these light colors. So for example, maybe like that. And use our tool and start drawing these like really thin rectangular shapes. It's really subtle, right? To this side, and then some more over here. Okay, I'm going to erase into this a bit, get rid of some of these. You can tell that it's not, again, this is another one of those, it's not a science or exact thing. You just got to kind of feel it out, get a sense for what looks good or not. Okay, that's enough for that color and layer. So let's reduce the color a bit. We want to make a bit of a darkness, create a new layer, maybe yeah, on top of it's fine, and just oops, no, let's go below. So move this layer below and just start putting some blocks in like that. Just gives a bit of depth. If it helps, put them on the right hand side of the buildings to simulate a sense of a shadow. Also kind of leave them closer to the bottoms of the buildings as well. Okay, so make this an alpha lock layer, and we're going to grab our red. Let's go back to our palette, red glow. Brush is going to be a soft brush, maybe just a 9% or 27%, and just hit that a bit just to reduce it. Similarly, we're going to do the same for the settlements themselves. So alpha lock that, and then, you know, parts that are closer to this warm side are going to be more red, obviously. Okay, cool. Now we're going to add in some lights. So this is going to help make it pop a bit. Just some really tiny ones, you know, like, you know, sometimes you see in the distance, the horizon, there's a few like little dotted lights. You can kind of cluster them together a bit to make it look more natural. And then every now and then you have like a separate one floating around. Remember, don't overdo it though. These are just small little towns, so just something to break up the shapes. Let's see how that looks. Okay, cool. Let's reduce this a bit so it looks further away. Again, yeah. Okay, and I would say that's enough for our city to be considered complete. But wait, there's one more thing. I'm going to add some cherry blossoms to create an even greater sense of depth, plus some advanced color adjustments to fine-tune the image. You can watch this in the extended video on my Patreon as a Drawing Club member. Joining means you'll also get access to my color palette, all the Procreate Snapshot files, Plus, you'll be supporting the channel, enabling me to continue making videos like this. You can find it at patreon.com/jwalkerpictures. Hope to see you there.